Buddy. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning to hear about the grant proposal that the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission is submitting in collaboration with the Franklin Regional Council of Governments, Wayfinders, the Mass Housing Partnership, Rural Development Incorporated, and the University of Massachusetts Donahue Institute. I'm Catherine Rattay. I'm the director of the Land Use Environment Department at the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. Our collaboration has come together with our 69 cities and towns to advance affordable housing development, preserve affordable housing, and expand access to housing in our region over the next 5 years. Our team has a deep and profound understanding of the housing needs of our region, thanks to years of engagement and collaborative work. As we all know, we need approximately 19,000 new housing units in our region. There's also a significant mismatch in terms of the region's ability to meet people's housing needs with respect to affordability. We are a diverse region, and we are a beautiful and welcoming place to live. And we know our region will become increasingly desirable with the impacts of the climate crisis and the arrival of West-East Rail. In brief, our proposal will secure funding from the United States Housing and Urban Development Department to significantly advance the work of the Western Mass Housing Consortium to develop the tools and resources needed in our cities and towns by our housing authorities, by our housing developers, by our planners and advocates to advance affordable housing development and preserve affordable housing. The Pioneer Valley Planning Commission will be funded to update our award-winning regional housing plan and our land use plan, and to facilitate development of housing production plans for all 43 of our member communities. Because the funding goes over 5 years, even communities that have a current plan will be able to benefit from the funding to update their plans. The Franklin Regional Council of Governments recently updated their regional housing plan, so their funds will be used to advance priority recommendations in the plan to overcome barriers to housing that is affordable in their member communities. At the same time, housing production plans will be developed for communities that are in need of them. Targeted resident engagement will be developed for targeted resident engagement combined with regional and statewide policy work characterizes Wayfinders' role. Wayfinders will also lead our regional education and information efforts to assure everyone is aware of their rights to housing and that everybody understands that affordable housing is needed in our region. The Mass Housing Partnership will be supporting the planning process and the regulatory work with their amazing suite of existing tools and with new tools that will be specific to our region that they will be able to develop with this additional funding. Rural Development Incorporated will be supporting the Franklin Regional Council of Governments to overcome barriers to affordable housing, and the UMass Donahue Institute will be assisting with data collection and analysis, and also developing specific tools, including modeling tools to help municipal officials and residents understand the impact of housing development in their community, especially to address misinformation. The goal of this funding from the federal government and our proposal is to say, yes, in my backyard, to figure out where in our backyards, where across our cities and towns, where in our region we can place new affordable housing and preserve the affordable housing we have. Now we're going to share some slides to go through our presentation in greater detail, and we're going to try to keep it relatively short so that you'll all have a chance to comment. So here we are. Today is the beginning. You can go to the next slide, Kyle. Thanks. We're going to, as I said, I've given a brief overview. We're going to walk you through the details of our proposal, and then we're going to have time for public comment. So the Pro Housing, again, it's designed specifically to advance housing. Yes, in my backyard. Pro stands for Pathways to Removing Obstacles to Housing. And back in fiscal year 23, HUD did award $85 million. This time they've increased the funding, and the maximum that entities can apply for is $7 million. And at this time, I will introduce our amazing team. As I said, I'm Catherine Rattay with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. Ken Comia is here, our Deputy Director in our Land Use Environment Department. Ken? Where
Hey,
are you?
I'm here.
There.
Thanks, Catherine. Yes, hi everyone. Looking forward to having this conversation with everyone this morning. In addition to ensuring with our already convening stakeholder groups, the Valley Development Council and the Regional Housing Committee, how they will play a role in a lot of this work. Thanks, Catherine.
And we also have Kyle Fennell and Aidan Hemian McMahon, two planners who work in our department. Our other partner is Wayfinders. We'll start with the Franklin Regional Council of Governments. Megan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Rhodes. I'm the Livability Program Manager here at the Franklin Regional Council of Governments.
And Wayfinders.
Hi, everyone. I'm Annie Zhu. I'm Chief of Staff at Wayfinders. And I also want to recognize two of our team members who are here on this call and would be helping advance the work under this grant, Alyssa Costa, our Policy Analyst and Project Manager, and also Bea Dewberry, our Director of Community Building and Engagement.
Thank you. And the Massachusetts Housing Partnership.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tom Hopper. I'm the Director of the Center for Housing Data at MHP, and I'd like to also introduce Ellen Maria, who is our Research Manager.
Thank you. And
Good morning, everyone.
Thanks, Ellen. Sorry. I don't think we have anybody from RDI. Is that correct?
No, they're submitting a homes grant actually right now.
Okay. And our partners from the UMass Donahue Institute are also not able to be here, but we're working with Mark Melnick and Carrie Bernstein on the project. Next, yeah, thank you. So we have been meeting for the last several months, our group of organizations, and we've also reached out to all 69 of our cities and towns. Many of our cities and towns have already signed the letter of support, and as of around noon today, we'll be posting our up to 40-page narrative application on our website for you all to be able to download and review in greater detail at your leisure. And then we plan to close the public comment period on Friday, the 11th, and then work on integrating all of your comments and then submit it either on Friday. It's not due until October 15th. So we're giving ourselves 4 days to make sure we get through the government grants website.
So for this meeting today, we will be reviewing the bulk of our narrative for the application. The quality of PVPC's collaborative proposal will be evaluated on how well we address these various questions. So of course, the better that we address the prompt, the better the score, the more likely the project will be to receive funding.
Is this me, Kyle?
Yes, Catherine, would you start?
Sorry.
Sorry.
So again, we have been collaborating, our organizations have been collaborating together or in subgroups for, I would say, over a decade or for decades, in advancing affordable housing and the preservation of affordable housing in our region. Both the Franklin Regional Council of Governments and the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission were funded back in 2012 to 2014 when the Obama administration was funding regional sustainability planning grants with a focus on advancing fair housing, requiring a fair housing equity assessment. And we are really excited about this collaboration. And I think at the end of this presentation, you will be similarly excited.
So I think as we, probably all know, housing is a major issue across the state, and it's certainly kind of a top priority for our current governor. But I think in the region, we have definitely recognized this as a major need and a major issue, kind of even before that, which is really what brought a lot of us together to the Western Mass Housing Coalition to really kind of advocate at the state level for our needs. A lot of kind of what we know about the current state of needs, it comes from a prior UMass Donahue Institute housing study, which projected a 19,000 unit supply gap in the Pioneer Valley by 2025, and also helped really determine what is the kind of lived experience of housing for people right now. And unfortunately, the reality is that many people can't afford really to kind of live here. 40% of households being cost burdened, particularly for people who are renting. And we know there's kind of just ongoing issues with homelessness and discrimination. So all of that is factors that we're kind of taking into account as we apply for this grant and think about what impact we hope to have over the 5 years and what are the issues that we want to work on.
Right. So to address the housing needs that we know that exist in Franklin County and in New Hampshire and Hampden County, we need to start tackling the barriers that are preventing us from not only creating more housing, but also particularly affordable housing in our region. And so this proposal is going to be tackling 4 of these main barriers. There are many that do exist. We acknowledge that, and we're hoping to learn more about them through this process. But the 4 main ones that we really would like to, we know are causing problems to our housing production is community support, or the lack of community support for housing production and for the creation of affordable housing. Without that, we can't permit new housing, we can't pass zoning bylaws that promote housing. So we're definitely going to be throughout the entire grant interweaving public engagement and outreach to start tackling that issue. Another major barrier is zoning. Many of our towns have very restrictive zoning that restricts new housing to single-family homes on large lots, which is not conducive to affordable housing or to the many different needs of our population. We also have some of the oldest housing stock in Massachusetts, and so one of the things we're going to be doing is not only do we need to add housing, but we need to preserve the housing stock that already exists. And then lastly, we have a large, many of our towns are rural, which means that they don't have public sewer. And so developing new housing on septic systems is a major constraint. And so we're going to be looking at ways to see if we can revise state regulations to make more flexible septic rules to allow for more development and do our part, the rural communities do our part for housing production.
I'd just like to highlight a few ways in which this project will better position Western Massachusetts from a policy perspective and share a little bit about how our vision will create some momentum for housing in the region. So first, we've already highlighted some of the challenges and opportunities that are unique to the region, such as pervasive affordability issues, local opposition to new development, rising costs, and infrastructure limitations. And so to better document and highlight some of these issues, we're aiming to introduce some novel methods as well as some standardization in the data work to add a little bit of consistency in the way that we measure some of these challenges. And that consistency, we think, will allow us to more easily identify differences and similarities across municipalities. And part of the vision of this project is to have these local realities feed up into a regional perspective. Second, we know that many funding sources for affordable housing, especially programs like the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program, are hard to make work in many Western Massachusetts contexts because they often require larger project sizes to be financially feasible, and that scale of development may not always be appropriate in some parts of the region. So we envision that by quantifying some of these opportunities and missed opportunities, really, and understanding just how much development could potentially take place if we can find funding streams that are a good match, we think that could be a powerful foundation of information to push for different and more resources. And third, we have amazing regional planning agencies and organizations like Wayfinders, RDI, UMDI, and others working in Western Massachusetts. And there really have been years and years of work to get to where we are to create the level of understanding of housing issues that we have. And this proposed project is another great opportunity to build on that work and keep developing a comprehensive housing vision for the region. So we're really excited about the prospect of having just so many municipal plans come together at the same time, and at the same time as regional plans. And we think this is just a fantastic opportunity to amass all of that planning effort into a set of priorities and policy solutions that can be a bit of a rallying point and can be used to advocate for action.
So our proposal is intending to advance housing development in the 69 municipalities that make up Hampden, Hampshire, and Franklin counties of Western Massachusetts. The Pioneer Valley Planning Commission serves 43 municipalities in Hampden and Hampshire counties, and the Franklin Regional Council of Government serves 26 cities and towns in Franklin County. And in total, this area encompasses approximately 700,000 people, or roughly 10% of the Massachusetts population. And of those people, around 40% of whom are housing cost burdened, which means that more than 30% of household income goes to securing housing. It's important to note that our region includes both high opportunity areas as well as more underserved communities, and that segregation exists in the Pioneer Valley, not just historically, but in the present day. This form of segregation has a lot of different causes at different levels of geography, including zoning laws, municipal individualism, and more. And that requires a coordinated regional effort to attempt to mitigate. And as such, this proposal is focused on preserving and creating housing and expanding opportunity across our entire geographical region. And we are intending to collaborate on a region-wide public information and outreach campaign across the entire geographic region in order to highlight our pressing housing needs.
So, and to really kind of carry all this forward, I think we'll envision engaging two sets of stakeholders in two different ways. Certainly to move forward on the housing production plans or to move forward on some of the kind of zoning changes and things like that that we'd like to accomplish. We'll need to work in really close partnership with local government, with people who work in housing really all across the Pioneer Valley. And then we also, I think you've maybe heard a couple of times that we've been saying we want to do a lot of community engagement and outreach too. And so as we do these housing protection plans, as communities come forward with changes that they might want to make, we want to make sure we're reaching out to all of the residents within a community in a way that's inclusive, and certainly in a way that helps them understand why building more or preserving housing in their communities can be such a great benefit and contribute to kind of a more vibrant neighborhood overall. And we will also hope to build on all of this partnership and work in the second part of this grant as well, when we talk about building a regional advocacy effort. So continuing to lean on our partnerships with people in the local kind of housing ecosystem, the planners and the developers and people who work in city government, but also bringing the residents along as well, so that we can really speak with a unified voice from the grassroots to kind of those in positions of power when we're advocating for what policies, statewide policies that our region needs. And affirmatively furthering fair housing. So fair housing is going to be integrated into our approach throughout this grant, especially as we're kind of thinking about how do we reach people, particularly people who may typically not be plugged into these types of municipal processes, may not already be coming to planning or zoning board meetings, kind of things like that. How do we certainly be very inclusive there? And a consideration of fair housing will also inform all of the policy efforts that all of the policy platforms that we develop and advocate for. I think it's already been noted, we know segregation is still very true in the Pioneer Valley today. I think a recent study identified the Pioneer Valley as one of the most segregated places in the nation, but also Massachusetts law includes a lot of additional protected classes beyond race, to include disability, sex, age, sexual orientation, and more. And so we'll be bringing a consideration of that through all of the work in the grant. And then I think as Aidan has already expressed very eloquently, we're really working to expand housing opportunity for everyone throughout this entire region. And we'll be living to the principles of fair housing as we try to do that.
So the timeline for our project is for the next 5 years to begin advancing the variety of pro-housing activities that we've alluded to. The funding is for 5 years, so we're going to really try to start off in year 1, 2025, building the groundwork for longer term, broader impacts. And that really starts at engaging local communities. Some of our partners will be able to begin implementing various initiatives. And then as we enter year 2, starting to expand the scope, looking regionally, PVPC will begin working on regional land use and regional housing plans. Year 3, we'll continue with regional planning efforts, wrapping up the local housing plans that are ready to be sent off to the state level for certification. Year 4 is when our partners will start to take the conversation even broader, advancing the regional topics to state level, trying to advance some of the regulatory revisions that we need to discuss with Mass DEP regarding septic regulations, And then year 5 is really continuing the state level advocacy, implementing our regional strategies and continuing to advance fair housing for all the 69 communities of the greater Pioneer Valley. In order to do this, it's going to take a lot of effort on the part of Pioneer Valley Planning Commission and all of our wonderful partners. PVPC as lead applicant for the funding will really be coordinating all efforts in collaboration with FERCog, Wayfinders, MHP, Mass Donahue, and Rural Development Inc. PVPC will be providing 7 full-time staff members, and we'll have senior staff supported all of our efforts from our partnering organizations. In total, we expect a team of 20 professionals behind the scenes, coordinating, facilitating, convening, advancing all of our initiatives and pro-housing activities, and implementing the desired changes for our communities. The strong partnerships with state agencies that Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, FERCog, Wayfinders, UHP, those relationships that have been cultivated over many years of combined efforts, those will be instrumental as we advance some of the topics, like I mentioned, septic regulations, advancing that to the state level to really enact meaningful change that removes some of those barriers that are just cost prohibitive for communities to produce affordable housing.
So in addition to what we're proposing to have the grant fund, there will also be other resources that we're leveraging to make all of this happen. And that includes staff time from 2 of the organizations, from MHP and from Wayfinders. It also includes earmarks and grants that FERCog and RTI have already secured. And I think so under this, for the grant application, we can only really recognize funds that will be leveraged during the 5-year period when the grant is happening. But as Kyle noted, all of this work will be building on a long history and partnership of work that's already happened through the coalition, through the UMass Donahue's 2021-22 housing study, and one that they're currently working on that's underway, through MHP's work in building a database to identify developable land opportunities here, through a recent regional housing plan that FERCog is completing. There's just a lot that's underway that we will already be leveraging, and then during this period we'll be leveraging even more.
Yeah, so I think why we're so very excited about this project is because, as Annie just mentioned, we're going to be taking all of the last decade or so of work that all of our partners have been working on, either individually or jointly, and coming together to really create a holistic picture of what the Pioneer Valley's housing needs are, what are the specific strategies that are going to be able to meaningful and actionable for this region. And we're going to create that into bring that to the state level. We're going to implement at the local, the regional, and the state level, which is a really exciting opportunity. And hopefully with all of that, and I think we've mentioned before, throughout every activity that's proposed in this proposal, is we're going to be interweaving public engagement and outreach, because we want to make sure there's a firm foundation of community support, of YIMBY, of Yes in My Backyard, that'll really be able to provide us the foundation we need to launch housing progress in the region. And because we're creating this holistic picture with all of us working together, we're hoping that, it's a 5-year grant, but the effects of this 5-year grant are going to be long lasting for much longer after this project is over. And so this is a really once in a decade opportunity for this money from HUD. And so we're really excited to take this, leverage what we've done already, and then spring forward into the whole lot more progress for the region and for the state. Because honestly, what we also recognize here in Pioneer Valley is that we need housing, we need affordable housing, but so does the state. And this is really an opportunity to work together, both the local, regional, and the state level, to figure out the housing issue here in Massachusetts.
So now it's your chance to talk. Thank you, everybody, for a lovely presentation. And as it shows here, we will be posting the full thing around noon today. And if you don't see it, check back. It'll definitely be up today. So let's take down the PowerPoint so we can all see each other and open it up. If you want to raise your hand, or yeah, you can be recognized. We're a pretty small group, so it might be fine if you just unmute and start talking. But who wants to comment first? Yeah, go ahead, Corinne.
For me, in my town of Agawam, the public engagement is one of the best parts of this entire plan, because many of you know how challenging it's been in Agawam, where we actually had lawn signs with a circle and a slash stop hap when they started our wonderful Rosewood Way, which is opening soon. So it's sort of like if you can convince Agawam, you can convince anywhere in the state. I know it's not really true that our town is the only town that's like that, but the people who have the loudest voices are the biggest haters. And it becomes challenging to the point where, even the administration and the council, and because those are the voices they hear, so it's difficult. So anything and everything you can do in my town for public engagement would be make my life, not just my day, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Corinne. Lisa, are you trying to unmute? Yeah, go ahead. You didn't successfully unmute yet. Oh, where did you go? You turned off your camera. I think you're going to come back in a minute.
Yeah, I
There
am.
you go.
Unfortunately, when I'm home, I have to use my phone for my voice.
Oh, yeah.
This and it doesn't work well. So I just want to thank you. First of all, I had no idea what to expect. This is my first time going through something like this. Housing has been something that's been at the heart of who I am over years of volunteering. And so I'm just really grateful for this opportunity to hear. And in my life, I've moved from South Hadley, grew up in Westfield, moved into South Hadley, and recently retired to the small town of Tolland. So I have this real diverse look at communities that have done a variety of different things and have built with Habitat for Humanity. So it's really, really intriguing to be here and hear the work that you're doing. And I don't know what to say other than the fact that I know here at this moment in time in Tolland, I know that the affordability, the people who do live here, listening to some of the COA people who came to Tolland because they had nothing and they found this very small, raggedy old house that they could actually afford. We know that there are people in this town that have disabilities and can't afford any kind of repair work on their homes. And I know that there's elderly who wish there was even a way to be able to have homes for themselves as they get older. And this was the first time I had the opportunity to hear that the Title V restrictions may very well be something that I didn't fully understand that would prevent some of this housing. My husband and I currently live in what would be considered a small, what do you call them? I can't remember. Sorry, that's what happens with age. Where you have small lots, small houses, shared common property. One of the originals in this area that built back in the 60s. But I know that in our 70s, our town quickly developed planning regulations to prevent that from happening again. And so I know that that's the kind of things that we have to overcome, is going back to that look of small units, small size lands, with shared. And I didn't know how that would work in regards to septic. So someone who's aware of it, but not on that scale, was really glad to hear that professionals are looking at it from that end. So I'm really, really hoping. I also want to say that I've done work with Afghans and the immigrants that have come in and have this incredible story because the rental home that we renovated specifically so an Afghan family could take it on, kept the rent low, and every other Afghan was pleading with us, please find us a home, because they knew how much our family was paying compared to what they had to pay. And as of last week, they are now owners
Oh, thank you.
of
Congratulations.
that home. But it took us giving it as gift to be able to do that. So yes, big part of my heart is what you're doing. So I'm very, very excited to be listening and want to be part of and figure out how we can continue this incredible, important work. Because what started me on the Afghan journey, and this is why I wanted to say it in regards to rural homes, is that every day I would drive by this house that I knew needed major work, but I also knew had acreage and I knew it had rocks. And I said to myself, I bet an Afghan family would love to live there because it would remind them of home in some way. And so the whole idea that this little Afghan family now has this little tiny plot in Westfield, and they're growing a garden like crazy, took down a tree. So we need to remember community gardens and having all of that be part of this rural development, because I think that that's an area that a lot of people want to be able to also do, and it creates community, and hence they're not alone, because rural communities can also be very isolating. So keeping that in mind of that idea of community building and opportunity, and Agawam, your rosewood is gorgeous. And I am so excited because I work a little tiny bit at the Agawam library. So I love driving by there, and it's exactly the kind of stuff we need. So I know that this is what this community needs. And so I just thank you. I thank you. And I want to do whatever I can to help you in whichever place I am.
Thank you, Lisa. That's beautiful. Thank you very much. Who would like to comment in addition? Liz, it looked like you came on camera. Did you want to say something? Oh, no, okay.
Hi, sorry if I missed this. When do you expect to have the award for this? Like, when would you know if it's been awarded?
That's a good question.
If I may, I just, in looking more closely this morning, as I was preparing one of the last bits and pieces for the narrative, the anticipated project start date is February 10th, 2025.
Oh, so that's pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And unless somebody else has a question, I have another one.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So in the timeline slide that you went through, where it was like years 1 through 5, it looked like year 2, I think, was when you anticipated starting to work on. Year 1 was all public engagement, which is really great. Year 2 looked like starting to work on housing production plans. And then year 3, I think, was wrapping up housing production plans. And then after that, you talked about like all the man hours and everything that the different partners on this are going to be spending. So it looks like there's, quite a bit of time dedicated to this. But I'm wondering how you, at this point, anticipate, are you like expecting to be working on all of the housing production plans that have to happen at the same time? Or are you going to start with some communities and then move into other communities? And how do you anticipate prioritizing which communities you'll start with?
It'll be staggered because, again, for the communities that have just recently updated their housing production plans, we won't be updating it until the plan expires. So the timeline was a broad picture, but there will be some variations within that timeline. And again, we'll be working closely with each one of our member municipalities to determine what makes the most sense for you. So don't think that that timeline is set in stone. We will be flexible based on needs.
Okay, and so probably understanding that there's different factors, probably the oldest plans will be prioritized to start first.
And the communities that don't have them, again.
At all, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe Alicia
Go
has a
ahead,
question.
Alicia. Thanks.
Good morning. I just want to flag for you all that several of the entitlement communities within the region are now working on their 5-year consolidated plans for HUD. So we'll want to be in close contact with you all, perhaps get a copy of this presentation so that we can figure out how to work this into our 5-year plan, because our 5-year plans, and I know, so that includes Westfield, Chicopee, and Holyoke, and I believe Springfield's probably starting theirs.
Yep.
I'm not sure where Pittsfield is on this schedule, but we'll need to work with you over the next couple of months to figure out how we integrate language into our plans, because I don't want to do a lot of this planning work that the consolidated plan requires if you all hopefully get the grant and
Yes.
then are going to be working that over the next couple of years. So that just needs to be taken into account. And then on Holyoke's side, of course, you probably know, but Holyoke has undertaken its comprehensive plan strategy, and a lot of this housing work should be integrated into that as well. So I know Aaron will want to be in close contact.
Yes, thank you, Alicia, for bringing that up. That's wonderful. And we can definitely put that language in our narrative as well to show how in sync we are with our entitlement communities.
That would be critical. And, please feel free to reach out and we can, we can coordinate this week if we need to.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you all so much for making the time to be here. We're not cutting you off. Feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourselves, talk. But in the meantime, I'll just say, we do have a webpage up on our website. Kyle will show it to you right now so that you can see, we'll have the PowerPoint up there. We are recording this session. We recorded yesterday, but I think we'll probably post this one because there's so many more people here today. And again, we'll have the narrative up there later, a little bit later today. And we'll have a survey form that Kyle has created so that you can put your comments in. We've been taking notes for the comments that we've received live today, and we'll be entering them into the survey so that they're captured for our narrative, because we want to document all of your great input. So yeah, here's the website.
So from the PVPC homepage, there's an announcement for the Pro Housing Grant on the main page. You'll have to click one extra time to get greater information, but once you get to the project webpage, we have a little bit more information, links to our partners, and to learn more about their wonderful work. And this is where we'll be uploading the presentation that we shared this morning, along with recordings from our 2 public meetings. We had our first last night. We'll share the recording for this. And then there will also be a link to a very short survey where you can offer additional comment on the totality, the complete kind of application narrative, which will also be right here as a PDF that you can access. Again, everything will be available for public comment up until Friday, the 11th of October. At that point, we'll collect all of public comment that's been offered and create an attachment that's required for the submission of the grant. And if anyone has questions or would like to discuss things further, Catherine is our contact person. Her email information is right there too.
Can you stop sharing so I can see if anybody has their hands up or anything? Anyone wants to say anything? Well, feel free to share your enthusiasm for this proposal in our comment form too, because again, it is going to be part of our proposal. So all of your enthusiasm and excitement will be great for us to capture, as well as any constructive suggestions that you have. And you can feel free to get on with your day. We'll stay here for a few minutes just in case anybody is a little shy and wants to talk when there's fewer people here. But thank you all so much for being here.
Hey, Catherine.
Yeah. Hey, Mayor Garcia.
Hey, good morning. Hello, everybody. Since you want some input and some enthusiasm, I just wanted to share, and I love Lisa's testimony there. How much I appreciate looking at this at a much comprehensive approach in the region, because for a very long time, and Alicia and I and a lot of us here in Holyoke, we peel the onion back to try to understand, you know, the level of compassion the city of Holyoke has had for, you know, has made us feel and realize that that certain same compassion is not really shared around the region. And when we talk about housing, there's a wide spectrum of different housing needs, from low threshold, low income, affordable, and workforce and market rate and home ownership. And so trying to understand where the gaps are in the communities and focus there rather than doing more of the same of what one community might be doing. So in Holyoke in particular, you know, we're currently right now #1 more than our 3 largest metropolitan cities with the amount of available rental housing stock for low-income families. And, you know, when I look at that data, my immediate thought is, do I want to do more low-income housing? You know, I think, you know, we need to balance the economic situation. So currently we're trying to attract more affordable workforce market rate housing to balance that. And in other communities, it might be the other way around. I think what's happening is, to everything Lisa described, you know, there's displacement happening in other parts of our region that is forcing people to move into Holyoke and Springfield, largely Black and brown communities that are underrepresented at the state level and don't necessarily understand how to navigate local government policies and whatnot to, you know, speak otherwise. So, but it's okay. We do it because it's the human thing to do. We really need to get other communities in line with that concept of collective and community, which means we take care of our neighbors. And so I'm glad that you're looking at this at a comprehensive way, because there is a systematic issue that's creating a bigger issue that does have an impact to smaller communities. If Holyoke and Springfield don't do well, then surrounding communities can feel that pain one way or another. And, you know, this particular issue we're trying to address around housing is a big piece of it. We need to figure out how to meet those, you know, for those families, that neighborhoods that are getting expensive and elderly's being displaced and they were born and raised in their community now have to consider moving to Holyoke, Springfield, Westfield, West Springfield, because they can no longer afford to live or keep up with their, you know, their home ownership need of, you know, whatever they might have inherited from their parents. The story goes on. Municipalities got to really help us try to take care of our vulnerable population, you know, and just sometimes it feels like Holyoke and Springfield are the only ones doing it, and creates this other quality of life challenge that makes it difficult for us to keep up with the needs. So anyways, like, holistic, comprehensive review at it, understanding where communities are and where the gaps are in those communities. That's where we should put a focus on, whether if it's a need for more low-income affordable housing or a need for attracting opportunities for market rate housing, building home ownership, whether if it's just regular home ownership or income controlled home ownership. You know, where is the need in that community? And that way it can streamline your focus on what, you know, how in your plan, how you can navigate the resources to help those municipalities untangle those knots so that they can get that level of production, whatever the need is going in their community.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful.
And if I could add on to that, nobody's jumping in now that my passion is already out. It's like not a little more. But Josh, you said a couple of things that so my experience, having volunteered for a variety of things and have walked with people going into housing, one of the things that I don't know if it's in the plan, and you have this huge team of people, but one of the things I found is that navigating, and that was the word that got me, Joshua, is the navigation, how to get the help, how to, if it wasn't for myself and a small team of just caring people, hadn't helped these people navigate every single aspect of, from helping with the financial, helping connect with wayfinders to take the class, helping, it's like they don't know how to do that. And one of the things that I kind of felt like in the city of Westfield, I said, I just wish there was one place that I could go to be able to take them and help someone else, because I didn't know any of the answers. I had to figure it all out. And it shouldn't take a white person with a master's degree to figure out how to do all this stuff. And that's what it was taking me. And I kept thinking, if it wasn't for this advocate here, how the heck was anybody going to get the help that they needed? So that piece of it, and helping those that are already overburdened, already overworked, already have limited time on their hands, who work shifts that do not go well with open office hours, how do they access the information and then be able to have the support they need to follow through?
Thank you, Lisa. Well, thank you again, Mayor Garcia. I'm appreciating what Stuart Beckley has put in the chat. Maybe these should be compassion plans instead of production plans.
And Josh, you were mayor. Congratulations. I haven't been so close for a little while. So congratulations, and that's awesome.
Thank you.
So again, oh yeah, go ahead.
I think one of the points that if I was writing this grant application, that I would reiterate is that housing in Massachusetts has come to such a critical juncture that no community can do it on its own anymore. I would have that as sort of the pivotal point in this, that the regionality of it is critical, because no one community can solve 19,000 units. No one community can create easy paths of navigation for families and individuals to access services. No one community can take on the issue of individual homelessness and substance use disorder, that it must be, as the mayor said, addressed on a regional scale. But I think reiterating that at one time, there was a time and place when cities could do it on their own, and we can't anymore. And then list out all those reasons why those challenges are there.
Thank you. Do any of the collaborators want to say anything in response to all these wonderful comments that we have received? Well, again, thank you again. We'll be here for a few more minutes, but feel free to get back to the rest of your day. I know you all are probably advancing affordable housing in your regular lives. So thank you so much for taking the time to give us input, and we really appreciate your comments and suggestions.
And Catherine, my last thing is, I hope I know when Pioneer Valley comes to Tallinn so I can be at that planning board meeting.
Okay, yeah, we'll make sure we let you know.
And maybe think about what it means to be on the planning board. So,
oh, we need a commissioner from Tallinn. It's currently vacant. I'll be in touch.
Oh boy. Okay, retirement. Careful. But yes, let's chat. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, I guess we could probably shut down the Zoom. I don't think I don't think we're going to get anybody to join at this point. So thank you all again. And we're going to put the finishing touches on the narrative right now, and it'll be available for you all to peruse in great detail.